So of course Murder the Movie was a very passionate project for me in interrupting Smash Cut, and it wasn't just because of the story or the detail in the visuals. It was about how a lot of tributes to Jar's work, my work, and a lot of stuff about VRChat itself. So here's a handful of references you may not even know they were mentioned. The chess set that's seen in the Game Show Hub and Jar's Game Night Palace, that was actually a gift for her that was 3D printed, is actually on that little dresser next to the radio on the first interior scene after the title. So that is a reference to the gift, and we can play in the Game Show Hub, and that was on display in Jar's Game Night Palace in the little gallery. So that's one reference. The other is about the pawns, like Jar's little unofficial mascots, like the little shy guys in the dark robes and the tall ones with like little weird and creepy hands. There's a couple of references to them, not just on the chess set, but in terms of their mention. As soon as the radio switches that first time, you hear a restaurant called Pawn's Palace of Pizza. That's of course a reference to the pawns itself, but also the fact that they have pizza, like kind of eating it in Audience Anarchy. So that's a reference itself. And Pawn University is like an unofficial thing as well. That came afterwards, actually, I think. But the Palace Pizza came after the university mention. But also, the word pawn is spelled differently in the screenplay and the subtitles. It's normally spelled P-A-W-N, in accordance to the chess version, but to keep it a little different and kind of make it a little more unique and more name-like, it's spelled P-O-N-N. It's pronounced the same way, but it's spelled differently. And the last reference I can mention, I'll do only 3, is about Derek's revolver. So, as you know, Derek, he fires a shot in the movie, but afterwards, when Tracy tries to shoot it, it clicks, it's out of bullets. So, because that is a reference itself to the fact that the gun in Murder 4 can only fire 1 bullet before you have to reload. So that is a reference to the gameplay mechanic of Murder 4 and other Murder Worlds before it. Now, of course, it wasn't just about the story as well that made Murder the Movie unique. It was about the detail. Because actually, there was a lot of things you saw in the film that weren't really, that nothing else really did, especially films like that. Because I actually made the world all from scratch. It was exclusively for that film. Because having experience in making worlds like that for over 7 years, it really helped out a lot. Because obviously, as I make all my worlds in SketchUp, I did put more Unity work there. So the house was made all in SketchUp. So the ground wasn't made in SketchUp, the trees weren't. It was just the house. And according to the script, and I think a little bit of the numbers you saw on the front shots, the address of the house is 5280 Millfoot Road in the town of Grifford. Now that's a reference to Jeopardy, actually, because the very first answer that Julian gave Murph was 5,280. The number, and Murph responded, how many feet in a mile? Obviously Griffin implying a griffin, so 5280 Millfoot Road is a reference to the creation of Jeopardy. So 5280, 5,280, and mill, like a misspent a mile, and foot. So because feet in a mile, that's the implication. 5280 Millfoot Road. And you can actually see the brass numbers on the front. They're kind of hard to see. Sorry. In those exterior shots, but it's a thing. So we thought about using the Murder 4 world, I think, for our film, but it didn't really suit our needs for our level of production. And no offense to Jar, of course, Murder 4 is a great world, but there were things we wanted to do that are a bit different. We were inspired, of course, by like the dark blue wallpaper in the living room. That was obviously inspiration. But the reason we couldn't really use it was because we wanted exterior shots, and they wouldn't really line up otherwise. So honestly, according to the script, there were exterior shots you saw like outside, out in the open. There was a street lamp, there was the road and the house and the sidewalk and the trees in the back, a lot of trees in fact. So we got exterior shots, and according to it, there was like weather we made, like a dynamic weather, because I was actually on the set. I was like under the world, like in like a basement-ish area, but like more open, and there were buttons I pushed, kind of like how I do my game shows. So the buttons I pushed during production triggered some things that you saw on screen, like the lightning flashes, the doors or stuff like that, the car appearing, but like the level of the rain, and also that oak cabinet getting knocked backwards when Amy gets shot, hits her back against it, and like passes away. So when the oak cabinet gets knocked back, like pivots back a quick bit, that was a button I pushed, like pretty much at the right time. And it obviously applies to a lot of reality stuff, like a real life effect. It's all about the detail in that, and also about the weather itself. Because a movie stereotype, a lot of times on the silver screen like Hollywood, is that thunder and lightning occur at the same time. But in real life, it doesn't work that way. When lightning goes off, depending on how far away that lightning bolt strike is, it can take anywhere like a few minutes to a few seconds or whatever. It takes a bit of time for the thunder to sound. And obviously there was like a big storm that was happening that you heard throughout the film. So that was a sense of realism as well for virtual reality sort of thing. The first 2 lightning strikes you heard and saw on screen, it took like a few seconds for the thunder to sound, and that was realistic. So that was implied that the thunder was a bit away, and then the third lightning struck hit, the third lightning happened, and the lights flickered in the house, and implied the thunder occurred at the same time, and that means it was right over them. Honestly, that was probably the lights flickering. That was a really cool effect. So there's more Easter eggs that you saw, and one I could have referenced before on 2 streams ago. Now, as you saw at the end of the film, you know what I'm talking about now. When Rose somehow survived being shot in the chest, and Derek's like, "How did this happen?" And the answer came when Rose pulled out from under her shirt a package of frozen meatloaf. Now that was also evident in the original audience angry script, but there was an open prompt for like whatever food you wanted. That was the thing. It was still frozen for dinner, but you could be whatever food you wanted. But I thought hard about what food could possibly be. Now, there were a couple things I thought about for that. So, it could have been anything at all, like maybe like a mac and cheese, whatever. But I want something dense and pretty large. So I looked around on SketchUp, finding like models like that, and I settled on meatloaf because it was pretty dense, like a family-sized dinner, and it would work. So the implication with that was, I guess, the Palix freezer was very strong. So the concept is that the food was so frozen that stopped the bullet. Pretty impressive, isn't it? I don't know if it's possible, but it's like a unique climax. And also on the meatloaf package itself, the bullet hole was modeled in. It wasn't a picture, it wasn't like a normal map, it was a molded bullet hole. So that was pretty interesting. You see it faintly in those shots, like of that landscape angle, but the thing you'll notice that's actually pretty funny was the brand of the meatloaf it was. If you looked very carefully, you saw a similar logo. It was Jen's Bostonian Cuisine. That's reference to me. So it has a similar logo and the similar typeface, the same typeface actually, the same colors, and the same blue and green background on the package that I used for my posters. Now, obviously, I'm not on there at all because that was just going to be a little sneaky. Now, the original, the original materials that were like Boston Market, like an existing brand. And obviously, I didn't want that because product promotion would not be a thing, and it would go against like that. So I wanted to do something original, and I thought, what if I threw a reference to myself in there? So I settled on Jen's Bostonian Cuisine, because not just Boston Market, but because I'm in the Boston area, that's where I am, as you've probably heard before. And I settled for that, and I got ads, that's okay. VODs will come later. So, with Jen's Bostonian Cuisine, I got a picture of meatloaf, pretty much freely, and I wanted to make it look just like the Boston Market one. So there we go. So, what else? Yeah, so the information was the same, like the way the information, it was all detailed just like the original Boston Market meatloaf materials. Like from the cooking instructions to the size of the instructions, it was all there. And you probably didn't even see a lot of stuff easily on screen. So that was a very cool thing. And of course, there's also a lot more detail, because also the characters were very well developed that you wouldn't even aware was even early in production. So I actually had a document here. I'm not going to show it, but I just want to refer to it real quick. Where is it? If you want to type it out. Where is it? Oh, here it is. I found it. Maybe not. Okay. So also, everything in that movie was made from scratch. The avatars in Visual Studio, obviously, and also all of the music. So the story of the music is the ISC soundtrack label is just like a pseudonym for myself right now, unless other people want to help with music too. It's like a community label. So all of the music in Mirror the Movie was made entirely in Logic Pro, the Apple music making software, because I do have a Mac Mini on my left that I use primarily to make the music, because it's really good software. So all of the music was from scratch, nothing was royalty free, nothing existed, it was all original music, including the Ballad of Romance you heard briefly on the radio. Now, the plan was always to have that song, like, briefly on the radio, and it would be cut off, but honestly the plan with that was it would be available in whole later on in the public. So I have the document open now according to the original pitch. So, from the beginning, we wanted to have life forms in the worlds, all from scratch, and we plan to have a lot of dynamic, and obviously full-body actors to make them a lot more dynamic and more expressive. So there was a synopsis as well, that was already planned out. And I have the characters, their age, and more or less their their personalities. So they're in order of appearance. So first I had Cameron Palak, who was killed at the very beginning. According to the original production, like Bible, you could say he was 41 years old. He's like more casual. He's supposed to be an author, like an aspiring author. He was writing a book actually before he was killed by Amy. Then there's Shannon Evans. She's age 52, like kind of elder. She's like an optimist in a sense, and she's very concerned and care about the safety of Rose Cullen. Because also on the subject, Tracy Cullen is Amy's sister, like her younger sister, and she was the ex-wife of Derek Davison. She's 38 years old. She's fairly compassionate and yet to a fault, as she prefers to talk things out instead of act on them almost every time. So I think when she's trying to talk me out of killing them. Then of course there's Tracy's daughter, Rose. She's only 9 years old, very young, attending I'd say like 4th grade at the time the events of the film happened. She's kind of mischievous, and she likes to wander off a lot. And according to very early on, outside of her, she likes a very big appetite. She likes to eat a lot. She gets very hungry easily, and that is actually implied throughout the film. But now let's explain more detail. Then of course there's Amy Palak, Cameron's wife. She's only 35. She's 35 years old, and she appears very timid and tormented throughout the film. She's kind of a more bolder person, like outside that, but she hid it very well. And really played the long game until Oliver ratted her out. So Amy actually was a lot more positive until the events of the film. And then she appeared very afraid and like really tried to make it believable when Cameron died and was killed. And then when Oliver ratted her out, she really got aggressive. Like a lot mean, unforgiving, and very like menacing. So that was the plan. Then of course you have Derek Davison, the ex-woman. He's 40 years old. He's smart, bold, fearless, yet sometimes makes mistakes. That was already early on. Then of course you have Cameron and Amy's son Oliver. He's 17 years old, and he likes to play video games. And of course, trying to be like a wise and compassionate, like I guess truthful kid, he will not hesitate to tell truth. He would also like to snitch on anyone he thinks is causing trouble. And the implication of that is that it wasn't really established a lot, but Oliver and Rose were very best friends, and they are. Because they hung out together a lot, like they got together a lot, and they went to, and I think they hung out like at school together. Yeah, because they went to the same school. Now, see, I also had the character traits for how I wanted the avatars to look. So I saw they were like, they appeared exactly as they were. So Cameron was the same height as Derek, skinny, formal clothes, and he had black hair and blue eyes. Shannon was the shortest of all the adult characters, like a little overweight, a formal detailed white t-shirt, tan slacks and black slip-on shoes, curly blonde hair, kind of receding, and she had blue eyes as well. Tracy was like in between the height of Shannon and Amy. She's slim, wears a rose pink blouse, black slacks, and blue heels. I think they were blue. I forget if they were blue on the avatar. I think I had to do it. She had ginger hair and hazel eyes. Then of course there was Rose. She's the shortest, of course, because she's like the youngest child. She's like half the height of Amy, according to the production material. She wears a pastel blue t-shirt, dark blue pants. I think they're like shorts, I think. No, I think they were like, I forget what they were, but anyways, she had like little white kid-sized sneakers, blonde hair, brown eyes. Then there was Amy Palak. She was shorter than Cameron, yet taller than all the other characters. Fairly slim as well, like, and so obviously I want to like wear a sky blue like kind of like a casual formalist dress. I couldn't find that though in VRChat, so I settled for like the kind of like what you saw in the film, like obviously like the dark blue dress and like the, I guess you could say like the white kind of semi-shirt that like tied in the front. And she had black stockings and some, I really want white heels, but the pearl one worked better. Brown hair, brown eyes. Then there was Derek Davison, the detective. Taller than everyone else, same height as Cameron, kind of bulky and muscle, but kind of a little buff. Originally, according to the material, he was supposed to have like a variant where he would have a leather jacket, like a trench coat, and a fedora. And that was actually planned. He actually had a model for that, where he was wearing the trench coat and had the fedora. The plan in the script was to have him take it off and hang it up on the coat tree behind him, like the coat tree near the front door. Now, I couldn't get that to work it was too hard because I couldn't figure out how to make the mesh work properly, like the dynamic skin mesh renderer and the fedora, so I cut it out and had just have him go in as is. So originally he was supposed to have a dark blue dress shirt, but that became a dark gray. And of course the black slacks, black dress shirt still there. He had blue eyes and he was also bald. So yeah, that was the implication. Kind of like Howie Mandel. Then the last character was Oliver. He's the same height as Tracy, and of course he wears the army camouflage t-shirt. He was supposed to wear sweatpants like 30%, but I changed it to shorts, and he had like pretty high socks, because obviously the kids like that never wear their shoes. He had light brown hair and blue eyes. So that was Oliver. That was all the characters and how they looked. So that was all planned out from the beginning. So there's that. For dynamic world and afterlife and light vibes, the dynamic props that can activate effects on command. Like the phone you saw was actually a pickup according to the deleted scene. You could pick it up and it would put it back down and it would go back. But obviously that was not seen on screen or shown in the actual film. We filmed that scene, but never got in the final picture. There were some pickups, like the knife, like Amy's knife, the butter knife, and also that meatloaf. Those were hidden out of sight until they were needed. So in the film, especially in the trailer for the movie, the killer knife was on the dresser at spawn, like that little dresser table with a mirror. That's where it was at World Spawn. And of course we got it back. We got it out. The butter knife was in the kitchen, as what on the kitchen table. And you actually never saw the kitchen in the film, but so like I said, but though. Then of course the meatloaf was like in the corner on the counter. That's where they were at spawn. And almost every room in the house was modeled because the windows were open in a sense. I modeled the whole kitchen, the dining room, and there's even the upstairs bathroom I modeled and put actual props in. Now, and also the master bedroom where Amy and Cameron are. They all had props and they all had detail, but you never actually saw that on the screen, but the windows offer a clue. So the bathroom and kitchen, like curtains or drapes or whatever, the blinds, they're closed, but you can still kind of see in it a little bit.